Did you hear about Bryan Kohberger's sisters, his big sisters, Melissa and Amanda, losing their jobs? I'm wondering if they should start to file lawsuits against their employers, or should they start YouTube channels? Hear me out. But before we get all into it, all of us true crime nerds know how important DNA becomes when you're talking about solving cases or just even figuring out your own DNA. Surprisingly, I had never done a DNA test yet in my life, so I finally did one, and I'm grateful that I partnered with MyHeritage in order to get my DNA test done. MyHeritage lets me know my heritage from more regions than any other test, and it helps me find unknown relatives. I mean, Papa was a Rolling Stone, if you know what I mean. The one thing I loved about doing this MyHeritage test was that I didn't have to come up with a gallon of spit in a tube and all of that. All I had to do was use the swabs provided and twirl them on the insides of my cheeks with the 2 cheek swabs provided. So they gave me clear instructions, 2 vials, 1 plastic bag, an activation card to activate my account online, and a return envelope to just make the process smooth sailing. I like easy in this busy video creation world. After I mailed in my sample, it gave me confirmation they received my DNA sample at the lab, and then it only took about 3 or 4 weeks to get my results. So while waiting on my results, there's plenty of MyHeritage features to keep me busy. I could build my family history, colorize, enhance, and even animate photos of loved ones if I want to. That's the feature that went viral and had people all in their feelings and emotional when they saw like loved ones who'd passed on animated in different photos. We could create our own family type documentaries with deep story, letting us make video biographies of family members. It can bring them to life. It's like a moving way to teach our kids about our family history. So if we wanted to really get creative, we could use AI time machine to create these amazing AI avatars and travel through the past by letting the MyHeritage technology take our photos and turn them into these crazy avatars. Okay, it's time to finally open MyHeritage DNA results. I can't believe I waited this long. I don't even know my entire complete heritage. Being African American, I expect a lot of African in my results. Maybe Cameroon, Ivory Coast, a lot of West Africa. According to my dad, his mom was part Swedish. MyHeritage DNA results for Paula Mooney are ready. Paula, ready to explore your ethnicity? Yes, I am. Let's go! There is music. Paula, you are dun dun dun. I'm 41.5% Nigerian. I had no idea. 15.5% Irish, Scottish, and Welsh. That's surprising. 10.8% Kenyan, and 8.8% West African. So I thought I would have been a lot more West African. And then there's 23.4%, 9 more ethnicities. Let's view the full ethnicity estimate. So again, we see the Nigerian, Kenyan, West African, Sierra Leone, and Maasai. I love the way they break it down so much. So you can see all the places in Africa, the European portions, Irish, Scottish, and Welsh, Finnish, Scandinavian, 1% Jewish, and Baltic, less than 1%, West Asian, 1%, Indigenous Amazonian, 0.8%, Oceania, Melanesia, 42 ethnicities, 2,114 genetic groups. I can even look at my DNA matches. Wow, so I'm finding like third cousins here. There's like 200 pages. Wow. And even DNA tools. My experience with MyHeritage was so fun and easy. If you guys want to find out your ethnicities and get really a lot more detail, get your own DNA kit today and get free shipping if you use the code Plunder. So check the link below and buy your own DNA kit at myheritagedna.com. As an added bonus, you can start a 30-day free trial of MyHeritage's best subscription for family history research. I know a lot of people get into the genealogy of it all, making it make more sense to see that tree come together. And enjoy a 50% off discount if you decide to continue it. And let me know your own results in the comments. So now back to Bryan Kohberger and his sisters and them allegedly losing their jobs. Now, according to Ashley Banfield on the Banfield Show from Monday, March 27th, Brian Enton and Ashley Banfield are reporting that both the Kohberger sisters have lost their jobs, and there's more financial strain going on with Bryan Kohberger's parents. It's horrible, if he's guilty, the position he's put his family in. Brian, that is. Michael Kohberger, Brian's dad, is a 67-year-old man out of Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. Probably thought he'd be off enjoying his retirement days by now. You know, he even flew all the way out to Washington to help his son drive, days and days back to Pennsylvania. He obviously loved that kid. And he even wanted to get Brian friends when Brian first moved out there. He must have made the trek out there in June of 2022 with Brian, another long drive. If they indeed drove that famous white Elantra, Michael Kohberger had talked to a neighbor and said, would you be friends with my son? He was just trying to be a caring dad, it sounds like. And there's Mary Ann Kohberger, 63, who is Brian's mom. We already know, we've looked over how his parents filed bankruptcy twice. Will they have to file it again? I have an idea that might help the family that involves YouTube, and it's not as crazy as it sounds because a different family member in a different case, the Doomsday Mom case, did hop on YouTube and talk about that case in a way that was really smart. But back to Brian's sisters. I guess Amanda Kohberger is his oldest sister. She's 35 years old. We previously looked at Amanda Kohberger's work as an actress when she was a lot younger in that horror slasher film 2 Days Back. Back then we talked about, did it give Brian some sort of ideas? His sister, 7 years his senior at that point, with him being this young teenager or adolescent going through the visual snow issues. His sister maybe kind of making it big, at least a big fish in a small town. Did it give him some type of ideas to create a real life horror movie? You can look for that video back in my playlist. It was a curious thought process. Amanda allegedly was a counselor based out of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. We know she was an actress, allegedly a model, but also a school counselor, perhaps a registered behavior technician and therapist. We do know Amanda graduated from Pleasant Valley High School in Broadheadsville, Pennsylvania in 2006. That's the same high school that her younger brother, and her sister attended. Her sister, and Brian's sister, is Melissa Kohberger. She's 31. She's just a few years older than Brian. And she also was a counselor at a school, we don't know which one. She has experience listed as a licensed professional counselor associate, and she even has answered questions online about what was your path to becoming a therapist? What inspired you to choose this profession? Melissa wrote, I grew up in a small rural town where I always felt a little bit different. Because of this experience, I developed an ability to hold space for people who feel isolated or lost, which contributed to my decision to pursue therapy. So Melissa doesn't mention, of course, in her bio, everything she went through with her younger brother. But I believe Brian's whole family seemed pretty supportive of him, even in Brian's writings about dealing with visual snow and other ailments. He talked about being on all of these different medications as a young boy. Obviously, his parents were doing what they could to try to help him. He even spoke of treating his family not nicely, being mean to his dad or what have you. So I imagine this family likely rallied around the youngest of the family, the only baby boy of the family, to try and help him. So no wonder his sister went went into therapy. She obviously had empathy for people like Bryan, who grew up struggling. His friends claimed he was on drugs and everything. Melissa said, "Then when I moved to Brooklyn, New York, I wanted to immerse myself in a completely different environment, different from that small town where they grew up. I decided to live in a youth hostel in a difficult neighborhood where I saw the effects of systematic oppression on mental health firsthand. It was such a formative experience that I ultimately led to where I am today." Which is so unfair. I've read all these comments that Amanda and Melissa have gotten online, just really snarky, like, "Oh, you're such a mental health professional. Why couldn't you recognize the problems in your brother?" As if family members have the onus, as if family members have responsibility and control for what this 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger is accused of doing when he moved clear across the country out of their sight and should have been able to comport himself and have his own autonomy and agency, not to end up being accused of what he's accused of, taking 4 beautiful lives. They asked her about her style, approach to therapy. She says all of us have that inner voice, that gut feeling that connects us to our instincts, our unconscious, the emotional side of our personalities. But with the hectic, conflicting demands of the modern world, many of us lose touch with our inner voice, which can lead to anxiety, insecurity, and disconnection. She might know firsthand there. I'm sure she's seen many things that we don't know about that likely happened with her brother that she may have tried to help him overcome all through the years. But Melissa said her greatest strengths were creating a warm, welcoming space where people feel comfortable quickly. Her natural inclination is to listen and empathize, and it makes people feel safe, for clients to open up, practice vulnerability, and to be fully themselves. Depending on the situation, I can weave humor into session to bring a sense of lightheartedness into the healing process. The container I create is warm but firm. I'm not afraid to challenge my clients because I believe that strong boundaries facilitate growth. Now that both of these women have allegedly been fired, I don't know exactly where they were working, which school district. Was it the Pleasant Valley School District? Was it another one where both of the sisters working as counselors in a school district? I understand why a company or a school district would want to fire them. If there's so much notoriety around Bryan Kohberger, it would be disruptive. I'm sure parents wouldn't want any Kohberger name near their children. These women would be inundated by press, even if they say no comments, no interview. If they're walking into a school or a school district, what have you, every day, if they're being hunted or chased down by reporters, of course that's going to be a distraction. It might create safety issues. I understand why a company or school district would want to get rid of the sibling of a person accused of such a heinous crime, but is it fair and is it even legal? Do they have things somewhere written down deep in their laws that state they're able to fire these women? If not, maybe these women should sue, or better yet, start their own YouTube channels. Now, no family members reportedly have flown out to visit Bryan at the Latah County Jail. There have been phone calls, and we saw at least one sister. It looked like Amanda, the blonde, with her hair kind of in braids, with her parents in Pennsylvania when Bryan made his first court appearance there. She seemed really protective of her mom, and they showed up for him. People, of course, on the outside looking in, they want their family members to disown the person accused. He's still innocent until proven guilty, so we have to refer to him as such. I understand family members, they may hate what they believe a person did, but they still can't turn off the love just like that. And they might be in shock. Look at the BTK killer's daughter. She is very just prolific. She gives a lot of interviews. She gives a lot of insight into the wrong way the public can come down on the family members of these people accused of horrible things. Some people automatically assume, oh, you guys knew the whole time what he was doing. You guys approved and co-signed on it. And people make up stuff. There was a photo of some woman, maybe the defense team, I'm not sure, out at the 1122 King Road house. Someone automatically assumed, oh, that's Bryan Kohberger's sister out there, as if his sister is out there on the defense team trying to help him. The Kohberger family did give a statement initially about being first and foremost sorry for the victims of this case and their family, but they also mentioned something about supporting Bryan or what have you. It was just a very kind of blanket, pretty good statement. I mean, at least they didn't come out like guns blazing like, oh, we support Bryan and he could never have done this, and they didn't come out against the victims saying bad stuff. I think if they had done something like that, of course they would have drawn all this hatred and vitriol from the public. The reason I say maybe they should think about starting YouTube channels, and I'm not sure if it would totally work because I'm not sure who's a witness to Bryan's behavior or not. But if they are hurting for money, if their parents are in dire straits, I mean, I don't know if they'll be able to get plane tickets to fly out to Idaho for the preliminary hearing, or if they would even want to. And if the sisters can't get any kind of gig like one-on-one counseling that wouldn't be so distracting that every client wouldn't fire them, YouTube might be their best bet right now. I'm not saying they're going to get rich or anything like that, but maybe they could make enough noise, make enough money, get enough views to buy food, at least pay their own mortgage. It's not their fault. I look at them empathetically because imagine if they were you. If one day you hear about some horrible crime, and then all of a sudden your little brother is arrested and accused of the crime, and then the whole world shows up at your doorstep trying to get an interview, and your job fires you, and you still need money to eat. I don't know if any of these women have kids, or if they're married or not, but you need money to help with your family. It could be a viable option to try and make money in a way that's also helpful. Now, let me give you an example. Annie Lyddix. I used to love watching her. Her name is Annie Cushing, and she's Tylee Ryan's aunt and Joseph Ryan's sister. We know that Lori Vallow Daybell, the Doomsday Mom, she was married to Joseph Ryan. He's gone on off of this earth. And Tylee Ryan, we know, unfortunately, she was found with her brother JJ, their remains in the backyard of Lori's husband's house, Chad Daybell. But Annie Cushing said, I will be taking deep dives into this case using data and facts from the FOIA docs to identify the method of operation of Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, and all of their co-conspirators and enablers. So initially she started speaking out on that Annie Lyddix YouTube channel, and she switched over to continuing to speak out on a channel called A Murderous Heart. She would analyze the behavior. Now, she may not have been a witness at all. I'm not sure if she will be called as a witness when the trial comes, but I know there is a gag order in place. I'm not sure how much it extends to Bryan Kohberger's sisters. If they're in dire straits and, they don't have assets, if they have assets to sell, if they have to file bankruptcy, who knows? But during this unfair time where the world might be coming down on them, something their brother allegedly did, I think about following the example of Annie Lyddix. Who knows? Getting on there and maybe not offering counseling one-on-one, but even speaking out about experiences, about in a vague way, about counseling people in general, or even talking about their childhoods growing up in general, dealing with a loved one on drugs or a loved one with visual snow, a loved one with anxiety, depression, ideation of harming themselves or what have you, without harming the current investigation. I'm not saying they need to jump on YouTube and start talking about, Bryan called me on November 13th and then this happened days after, or when he showed up, before Christmas at home. I'm not saying get into details like that, but if they are suffering and unfairly targeted by, a justice-hungry public that sometimes goes way too far and attacks family members in ways they shouldn't, that is an option. So we'll see what happens there. We'll close it out there. Today I'm really following the case of the California City Boys, Trezell and Jacqueline West. Oh, such sadness I'm hearing. We'll look forward to more coverage on all of that. 1 Timothy 2, 5 through 6. For there is one God and one mediator between God and mankind, the man, Christ Jesus, who gave himself as a ransom for all people. This has now been witnessed to at the proper time. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned for more.